Let's start from the most gruesome to the most horrifying deads. Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar is one of the most notorious drug lords to ever exist. He founded the Medellin cartel in the mid-1970s, and he revolutionized the smuggling routes from Colombia to the United States. As you may know, his drug of choice and what made him incredibly wealthy was that white powder, cocaine. Americans loved his products so much, he was responsible for supplying 70 to 80 tons of cocaine monthly to the U.S. In the early 1990s, Pablo was living like a king. Private armies, lands, private planes, and mansions, but this will all soon end. In June 1991, Pablo surrendered to the Colombian authorities. He did this under a special arrangement that allowed him to avoid extradition to the U.S. and instead be housed in a luxurious, custom-built prison known as La Catedral. This place, instead of a regular prison, was more like a country club or a fortress-like mansion. It had amenities such as a soccer field, a gym, a bar and disco, and many more things. He even had a life-sized dollhouse for his daughter to play with. His time in the mansion was short-lived after reports surfaced that he had tortured and murdered two of his own cartel members inside the catedral. After just 13 months, the Colombian government moved to transfer him to a conventional prison. But before the transfer could be completed, Escobar had escaped through a secret pre-built escape route in the mountain behind the prison. This is the moment when the final 16-month manhunt started that led to his death. On December 2nd, 1993, the day after Pablo's 44th birthday, he made a call to his son, Juan Pablo. Escobar was well aware that his phone calls were monitored. He even warned his son about the dangers of using it, telling him that all his captured enemies had been caught by this very reason. But for some reason, he didn't listen to his own advice. He spoke to his son for a little over 2 minutes, which was enough time for the U.S. intelligence to track his location. Authorities raided his hideout. That's when Pablo and his bodyguard tried to escape by climbing across a nearby rooftop when they were met with an officer pointing a gun directly at him. This is the part where it all turns kind of confusing. The official account states that search block officers killed Escobar, but his family claims that he committed suicide by a self-inflicted gunshot to the ear to avoid capture. Either way, this event will be a part of Colombia's history forever. Fito, Ecuador. José Adolfo Macia, Villamar, most known as Fito, was a figure who played a huge role on the criminal landscape of Ecuador. He rose to prominence by being the leader of the gang Los Choneros, one of the biggest crime organizations of the country. As every criminal organization, they did the usual drug trafficking, extortion, and money laundering, the usual. His organization became so big it extended beyond national borders, and it is said to have links to Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. In 2011, Fito was convicted to a massive 34-year prison sentence for all of his crimes. He was sent to a maximum security prison called La Roca. While in prison, he was still running his operations from inside and had many loyal followers behind him. Only 2 years into his sentence, Fito and 17 of his men overwhelmed and immobilized 14 prison guards. I guess the maximum security prison was not so secure after all. He fled to the nearby Dale River and escaped in a fleet on motorboats. He enjoyed a few months of freedom before being captured again. He was then sent to a different prison, but like the previous case, this prison was more like a luxury suite. Thanks to the endemic corruption, Fito was running an international drug trafficking empire from behind bars. His cell was twice as big as a normal one, with a private bathroom and a queen-sized bed. Had full access to cell phones and internet. He threw wild parties with fireworks and mariachi bands, and even had his personal fighting roosters, and most importantly, he had a mini fridge. To top it all off, he had to show how gangster he was by releasing a music video filmed inside the prison, where he and his daughter posed glorifying his life as a drug lord. Obviously, the police were hunting him everywhere, even offering a $1 million reward for his capture. For years, Fito was the undisputed boss of the prison. In August of 2023, a presidential candidate, Fernando Villavicencio, who was very publicly anti-corruption, was killed in one of his political campaigns. Authorities immediately suspected Fito, who allegedly orchestrated the hit from his cage. The government, embarrassed, finally decided to transfer Fito to a true maximum security prison. The military team arrived to move Fito, only to find his cell empty. He was gone. Authorities later confirmed he had been tipped off just hours before the planned transfer. No alarms, no shootout, he simply walked out. For the next 17 months, Fito was the most wanted man in Ecuador, with Interpol searching worldwide and a $1 million bounty on his head. He became a ghost, running his empire from an unknown location while the country fought his war. The massive manhunt finally ended in Fito's hometown of Manta. Authorities raided a luxurious house complete with a pool, gym, and game room. The military discovered a hidden camouflage trapdoor in the marble floor. Below it was a descent into a sophisticated secret underground bunker. Inside that hole, they found Fito. He was forced to lay face down with a soldier's gun at his head, finally subdued after years of defying the law. Fito was extradited to the United States. He was flown to New York, where he was arraigned in a Brooklyn federal court, now facing the full weight of the American justice system. Ramon Arellano Felix. He was born on August 31st, 1964, and was only 37 years old when he died. He is known for being the founding brother and main hitman and killer of the Tijuana cartel. This guy was so feared he even ended up on the FBI Most Wanted list. He was allegedly responsible for killing countless people from police officers to judges, and even women and children. He was really dedicated to his job. For a long time, his cartel was one of the most powerful and violent drug trafficking organizations in the world. Now that you have some context about his background, let's get to how he died. It was February 10th, 2002. Ramon was reportedly on a mission to eliminate one of his rivals, El Mayo Zambada Garcia, from the Sinaloa cartel on the popular resort city of Mazatlan. He was driving a beat-up Volkswagen to avoid attention when suddenly he was stopped by an officer for a traffic infraction. His name was Angel Antonio Arias Torres, and he didn't know that the person he just stopped was the hitman of one of the most violent and powerful cartels ever. Ramon didn't know that the officer stopped him for a simple infraction. He thought the officer already knew who he was and wanted to hunt him. Ramon, in a desperate attempt to escape, shot the officer twice in the chest, mortally wounding him. As the officer was falling to the ground, he fired back. That single desperate shot went directly to Ramon's head, killing him instantly. One key factor that derailed the police investigation for weeks was that Ramon had plastic surgery to change his appearance. They had to do DNA testing to confirm that the body belonged to one of the most wanted fugitives. But the story doesn't end there. There is a rumor specifically from El Mayo Zambada himself, claiming that this was no random traffic stop. He claims that Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who was Ramon's rival, ordered the officer Arias Torres to conduct a traffic stop to eliminate Ramon. A drug lord who avoided authorities for years was finally taken out, not by a massive police operation, but by a routine traffic ticket. How crazy is that? Evaristo Porras Ardila. He is known to be one of the leaders of Cartel de Medellin, down in the jungle on the Colombia-Peru border. He managed the flow of cocaine in and out of the Peruvian routes. Porras was known for his eccentric jungle builds. He never had a mansion or lands like other narcos. He built a luxurious brothel right in the middle of the Amazon rainforest and ran it like a private resort for his narco friends. He was first captured in Peru in 1978. Once in jail, he faked an appendicitis attack. He was rushed to the port city of El Callao, and with the help of his lawyer, bribing doctors and pressuring them, he simply walked out and vanished. He was then captured multiple times throughout the 80s, but he always managed to avoid jail through bribery and legal loopholes. When he was captured and deported to Colombia for the fourth time in 1989, the authorities noticed something strange. The man they captured looked nothing like the old Porras they had captured multiple times in the past. He showed clear signs of having undergone plastic surgery and was even wearing colored contact lenses to change his eye color. On December 15, 1995, Porras was captured for the fifth and final time. He was not surrounded by bodyguards or was fighting back. He was old and sick, showing symptoms of Parkinson's disease. While he was in prison, the Colombian government used a legal tool called extinction of domain to seize all his properties: the crazy jungle resort, the apartments in Medellin, the estates in Bogota, all gone. When he eventually got out of jail, he had nothing left. He lost his money, friends, and properties. He spent his final days on a legal battle suing the Colombian state to try and get back his old seized houses. On March 3, 2010, Porras died from a heart attack. He died fighting for the scraps, a tragic and lonely end for a man who once ruled the Amazon.